Hey everyone, Trevor at Toploaded Gaming. In this video, I'm going to give my thoughts on Death Stranding. Is it a walking simulator? Are you just a glorified UPS delivery guy? Does the game have any replay value? Well, my answers are a bit more nuanced. It's not a walking simulator. But it's not an exciting game. It has no replay value. And yes, you are a glorified UPS delivery guy driving around with people's Amazon packages. But only if you know what you are doing when you play the game. If not, you're on foot and it's a walking simulator. This is not going to be a spoiler-free video, so if you want to avoid spoilers, they may come out at any second, so obviously click off this video now. You have been warned. The game is set in a post-apocalyptic world. You are Sam Porter, played by Norman Reedus. You are what's known as a repatriate, which essentially means you can respawn. Why all of a sudden we needed an explanation as to why you could die, reload the game, and try again? Nobody knows, but here it is nonetheless. You are tasked with essentially reconnecting the Wi-Fi to all of what's left of the United States, now called the UCA. Short for United Cities of America. I played the game twice. The first time I was mostly trying to speed through the game to experience the story. This is mostly because of how I work. After I finished, I restarted and 100%ed the game, which technically I think the only thing I didn't do was 5-star Higgs' base. What I really enjoyed the first time around was building roads. See, both times I played, I didn't have the game connected online. I didn't want a bunch of dipshits ruining my experience, leaving troll vehicles in certain spots, leaving spoiler signs in certain places. If I wanted an online experience, I'd buy a multiplayer game. So I built everything. Every road, every ladder, anchor, bridge, all put there by me with the exception of the tutorial ones left to show you how to use them. So I was building the roads and having a blast finding new areas. In my first playthrough, I got my first bike in the first 3 hours. So I found it weird people were calling it a walking simulator. I mean, even Angry Joe repeated this walking simulator bullshit in his review, and I don't get it. Have you played games before, Joe? Have you played them? Do you have experience with games? I mean, don't get me wrong, if you wanted to walk, fine. But I used the vehicle for nearly every mission the game threw at me. Then towards the end, you get zip lines, which are even faster than vehicles. And yeah, you have to set them up. But if you can set them up, you're on the chiral network, meaning you can use a vehicle and recharge it indefinitely. So I don't really get the walking simulator stuff. I'm just gonna bottom line this. If you're walking in this game, other than a couple of missions, it is by choice, ignorance of the game's mechanics, or out of sheer stupidity. The attention to detail is really something to marvel at in this game. It's almost too much. I kept asking myself, is this really needed? For example, do we need to go over our own inventory at near OCD levels for something that in other games just works without fail? When it comes to packages, I get it. You need to set a limit. But for ammo, supplies, so much emphasis is on maintaining your carried inventory. If you constantly use a vehicle like me, you'll also have to meticulously maintain the vehicle's inventory as well, depending on what you're doing. One thing I really liked about the truck is it gives you a meter to go off of to let you know if your truck is nearing its capacity. That was really useful for me. But I feel like the backpack should have fit more pouches. They could have simply made the battery smaller, for example. It's kind of like the game gives you no choice but to use grenade pouches or batteries. Pick one. With other games, your inventory is just there. The shit just works. It just works. So was this needed? The truck capacity, yeah, that was great. The meticulous way through which you have to govern items, in my opinion, no. If I could get back the time spent putting items in my locker or making a private locker to drop things off that I couldn't carry, countless times making sure everything was in its right place, boots on the clip, armor on the arms and legs. Make sure you don't put a package on your arms or it will unequip your armor. Holy shit. I could have lived without all that. I mean, nothing explained how Arthur could keep so much shit in his pouch, yet you don't see anyone complaining that he had some magic Santa Claus sack. Another gripe I have in general with games as of late is what's with the hang up trying to write in not killing anyone. Like in Watch Dogs, you're penalized for killing people in the form of you labeled a menace or a vigilante, depending on if you're doing good or not, as far as killing people. So in this game, if you kill someone, you're supposed to go to an incinerator. Otherwise, you risk letting that body turn into a BT. And if any of the other porters die from that BT, boom, void out. At least that's what I think happens, because I never killed anyone because I didn't want my roads to be destroyed. I'm just going to put this out there because it seems like it needs to be said. Killing people in a video game is not morally wrong. It's a fictional game in a fictional setting. Just putting that out there. I think personally Higgs, played by Troy Baker, stole every single scene he was in. That dude can play anything and find a way to make it captivating. I wanted more of Higgs, but it's more than that. The dude was so good I wanted him to be the main character. Not as Higgs, but I kept thinking to myself, man, I wish Kojima would have got this dude to play Sam instead of Ritas. Meh, I feel like Norman Reedus was just doing his best David Hayter impression, but that seems to be Norman's range anyway, so that's not something I'm saying was unique to this project. It's just the way he talks, I guess. Mads Mikkelsen did way better than I thought he would. I liked him, definitely would like him to take on more work like this. To me, she was a bit weird. Like something was off with the motion capturing. Maybe that's just me. I'm not super educated on motion capture, so I have a hard time explaining myself on this, but it just seemed weird. It was just like this uncanny valley type of thing going on with her face. Kind of like how young CG Arnold looks weird in Terminator Salvation. I also think she was really corny. The way she's always constantly eating or offering tardigrades. And I don't care what Kojima calls them or anybody else. These are tardigrades and they are real. In fact, they may even be the answer to the riddle of what actually started life on Earth. But I digress. BB, Lou, Louise, whatever you want to call the baby, I really liked Lou. The way they made the baby's facial features and its expressions. It does get a little annoying when you fall. You know, it kind of gets old quick where the baby's crying and everything. But it didn't bother me that much. Overall, I liked Lou. But I did not really care for these other characters or their names. Die Hard Man, Dead Man, Mama. These are all grown-ass people, and they are going to call one another by these names? I just kind of cringe at the thought. To me, these names felt very Metal Gear. A lot of this game felt like a sequel to Metal Gear Solid 5. Even the incompleteness of Metal Gear Solid 5. Like Norman Reedus never talking to people when he delivers packages. Like, did they run out of time to record his lines? Did they not write lines at all? Why does he never fucking talk? It makes no sense. So, admittedly, I am somewhat of a hipster douchebag elitist when it comes to music, but I'm not going to lie, I didn't like a single fucking song from this soundtrack. The score stuff, that was okay. But all the music they played where they would like advertise the artist, I fucking hated those. And I wondered, since the first time I had saw credits appear in the game over a music track, why the fuck they would purposefully take me out the game like this and announce who the artist is. And then I watched the making of feature that came with my game, and of course, these are all Sony artists. They try to act like Kojima handpicked these artists, and maybe he did, but it was only after Sony told him you can only use Sony artists.
Aren't
video games
magical, kids?
Speaking of taking you out of a game, ruining your immersion, that sort of thing, why in the fuck does this game constantly break the fourth wall? Redis is constantly motioning to you. The AMC graphic that appears when you take a shit. This wasn't funny. The only purpose it served was to take me out of the game. It was as if an alarm was going off every single time it happened.
Warning, you are playing a video game. Warning, you are playing a video game. Warning.
This decision was truly baffling to me. I get Kojima's humor has always been a little quirky, but this was a poor choice. By the time I finished the game, before I restarted, I unlocked a backpack cover, and I thought, man, what else did I miss? So I decided then, I'm playing it again, and I'm going to build every road, unlock every upgrade, and do everything that I can. So I started over. And while I'm on this topic, why do games like this keep shipping without a New Game Plus mode? Come on, guys, this should be standard shit at this point. You put a game out like this, it should fucking ship with a New Game Plus mode. Period. End of fucking story. No exception. I don't care if you Rockstar, I don't care who you are. You make a game like this, New Game Plus. That's simple. So anyways, the way I handled this was, I would spend the time needed to 5-star every base in the first area before moving on, so I needed to get a bike as fast as possible. This time, I knew what to do, so I got my bike 55 minutes into my second playthrough. I unlocked every base 5 stars, and in doing so, the only thing I found that I didn't have the first time through in the first area was a harmonica, which you can use to calm the baby down. It's kind of cool, but whatever, I was kind of ticked off. So then I took the ship with Fragile. You know, after the ship, it's kind of like, alright, that's the tutorial area. Here's the real start of the game. Kind of like Red Dead Redemption 2 and Valentine. You know, when you get to Valentine, you're on your own, you know? I started out by going straight to the second mule camp and stealing a truck. I drove it back to the first distribution center, whatever the name is, and I parked it down there, and then I did a few missions on my bike to unlock a few things, like the exoskeletons and the bola gun. Once I had those, I started building the roads. I wanted to connect my roads all the way from the first distribution center all the way to the craftsman and then go from there. Now I had a road set up, and I could keep utilizing the mule camps to get metals and ceramics to build more roads. A little past the craftsman, they have a ruin zone that is filled with BTs. This area has a boss fight that will constantly respawn. So if you let the BTs capture you, you can fight the boss. The bosses are all pretty much easy, so I used that area to farm chiral crystals. I was having fun doing this. I spent around 60 hours building these roads. When I had the roads complete and all the bases 5-starred in that area, I'd move on to the next area, get a new base, you know, and start moving packages and building roads and 5-star that base. One thing important to note here, the cutscenes. Surprisingly, Kojima allows you to skip a lot of the cutscenes. But when it comes down to one of the most frequent cutscenes, he doesn't. When you come upon a BT area, your vehicle stops twice. The first time when it starts raining heavier, the second time when you are actually in their presence. These scenes are not skippable, and if you are building roads or doing side missions, get ready to see these fucking scenes a lot. Kojima, you need to patch this shit to allow for skipping those bullshit scenes. Like, oh, that was a big one. But then, towards the later missions of the game, you end up in the mountains. And if you are trying to take your time, unlock everything as early as possible, you will find your roads destroyed when you are done in the mountains. Plain and simple. So many hours down the drain. When I got back from the mountains and saw I had 1 or 2 patches of road left, I was sick. To me, this game has no replay value. I'll never touch it again. I don't like the story, so I was skipping all the cutscenes. And the stuff I did enjoy gets destroyed way too easily compared to the time that you invest in it. So at that point, I realized, in my opinion, this game kind of sucks. You deliver packages and that's it. You occasionally fight, but you mostly deliver packages. Sure, by vehicle if you know what you're doing, but yeah, that's it. You're a UPS guy. There's a theory out there about George Lucas as to why people think he was capable of making the first 3 Star Wars movies, but also incapable of making good prequel movies. It goes like this. In the original trilogy days, George was a nobody. And he had other people around him who were considered equal that would rein him in on his really out there ideas. Whereas by the time he did the prequels, he was George fucking Lucas, the man who created Star Wars. How was anyone going to tell this guy anything? Who would even have the balls to? Thus, he was surrounded by yes men. He no longer had anyone to rein him in. One of my worries for this game was that this scenario would come to pass, and I think it did. Now, I don't like attaching numbers to reviews because I feel like people just argue and obsess over the numbers. I just don't know who this game was made for. Typically, the delivery guy simulator crowd would be turned off by the action and paranormal stuff, and then the action crowd would be turned off by the mundane stuff. So I'm not sure who to even recommend this to. I'll say this, if you liked Metal Gear because it combined theatricality with good gameplay, then I'd say skip this game. You're far better off with something like Red Dead Redemption 2. If you are into logistical planning, you may find enjoyment out of playing this game probably once, and that's it, because that was my side of it. But this is essentially what this game is. You are a logistics planner with the occasional Michael Bay Wachowski brothers scene. Oh, and I give this game 7 out of 10. Go fuck yourself. Well, until next time, this is Trevor at Toploaded fucking Gaming.